The palace gates have slammed shut, and for 11 families, the world has just ended. My crowned guest friends and families, the Golden King has started a bloodline purge that is sending shockwaves through the land of the Golden Crown. This is not just about firing staff, it is about uprooting every seed planted by the fallen elders. Why are mothers prostrating on the bare ground, and why did the Golden King refuse to listen to their cries? A quick note. We deeply respect our traditions, so we use fictional names for certain sacred titles and rituals. Stay with us and you will understand them perfectly. A short prayer for you. May you never be a victim of another person's mistake, and may your source of livelihood never be taken away by the storms of life. Amen. The land of the Golden Crown woke up to a silence that was so intense you could feel it pressing against your chest. This was a barefoot silence, the kind that walks quietly through the corridors, checking every corner and writing names in invisible ink. You see, working in the palace of the Golden King is not just a job, it is an inheritance. In our land, if you serve the Kabiyesi, your family name becomes heavy. At weddings, you sit at the front. At funerals, you are greeted first. It is the highest honor. But that honor turned into a nightmare this weekend. The Golden King, a man we all know has a heart of gold, finally reached his limit. The investigation into the fallen elders had been going on quietly, and while many thought it would only affect the big men at the top, they were dead wrong. The Golden King stretched the hand of justice right into the living quarters of the staff. He realized that the palace had slowly become a web, not of service, but of secret protection for those who wanted to destroy him. The hammer didn't just fall, it shattered the palace peace. It started with quiet summonses. No shouting, no public announcements, just staff members being called in one by one. Some came out pale like ghosts. Some did not return to their post at all. By the time the sun was high, the number was out. 11 palace staff and attendants were fired. Not suspended, not warned, fired. My crowned guest friends and families, the instruction from the Golden King was simple and brutal. If you are related to a fallen elder, you are out. If you are linked by blood, marriage, or loyalty to those who conspired against this throne, pack your things and go. It didn't matter if you were just a business who stayed silent, or if your cousin was the one who did the dirty work. If your presence in the palace was made possible by a disgraced elder, your time was up. The palace scattered. You need to see the crying. Mothers and fathers were prostrating on the bare ground, begging for mercy. Sisters were tearing their wrappers in greeds. Losing the palace job is not like losing a regular job in the city. When you are fired from the land of the Golden Crown, you are disconnected from the source of life. Your family name loses weight overnight. Neighbors who used to bow to you who start asking questions with their eyes. The respect your parents enjoyed begins to thin out like diluted soap. The suspense in the air was so heavy, it felt like a physical weight. Every remaining staff member was replaying every conversation they ever had, every favor they ever accepted from a fallen elder. No one knew who was next. The Golden King was firm, his case like stone. This wasn't a moment of hot anger. It was a calculated surgical removal of rot that had been there for years.
The atmosphere inside the land of the Golden Crown became so intense that you could almost hear the heartbeats of the guards at the gate. This wasn't just a regular day at work, it was a day of reckoning. You see, many people don't understand that serving the Golden King comes with benefits that money cannot buy. If you have 4 children in school, they are on him. If your child wants to go for a master's degree in the UK, Canada, or Australia, the Golden King pays for it without blinking. He is a man with a heart of gold, a king who builds hospitals and sends people to India for surgery out of his own pocket. But because he's so good, people began to take his kindness for granted. They turned the palace into a hiding place for secrets. These 11 staff members were not just random employees. They were the eyes and ears of the fallen elders inside the king's own house. For years, they had watched things go wrong and said absolutely nothing. Why? Because their uncle was a big man in the Golden Crown Elders Circle, because their benefactor was powerful. They chose loyalty to their blood over loyalty to the truth. When the Golden King realized that the people serving his food and cleaning his floors were the same people reporting his movements to his enemies, he didn't shout. He didn't raise his voice to the heavens. He simply sat with the evidence. He looked at the names, he looked at the connections, and then he signed the papers. The scene was pure chaos. One of the fired attendants, a woman who had raised all her children on palace income, collapsed when she was told to pack her bags. She had turned down other jobs years ago because palace work was seen as the final arrival. Now she was standing outside the same gate she used to guard with nowhere to go. Her family name, which used to open doors in the market, was now a source of shame. Mothers from the village traveled down as soon as they heard the news. They didn't come to visit, they came to roll in the dust. They prostrated before the internal palace gates, begging the guards to let them see the kabesi. Please, our daughter is innocent. She only did what the elders told her. But the guards remained like statues. The instruction was clear. The rot must be removed. The Golden King remained inside, firm and unmoving. People were blaming the spirit of justice, saying it was too harsh. But the king knew that mercy to a traitor is cruelty to the throne. If he allowed these people to stay, he was inviting history to repeat itself. Every favor they had ever accepted from a fallen elder was now a chain, dragging them out of the palace. The suspense was killing those who remained. They walked on eggshells, afraid to even laugh, because in a palace filled with invisible ink, your next smile could be your last. The crying didn't stop at the palace gates. It spread to the family houses. When you are fired from the palace, you aren't just unemployed, you are a social pariah. Neighbors start whispering. The respect your parents enjoyed begins to thin out. Enemies who used to hide their faces now smile openly at your misfortune. It was a surgical oppression, and the Golden King was the surgeon, cutting out the cancer of betrayal before he could kill the whole body.
The atmosphere in the land of the Golden Crown became so heavy that the very air felt like lead. You see, the Golden King is not a man who enjoys seeing people suffer. This is a man whose scholarship list is longer than a river. He has people in hospitals in India, people studying in Timbuktu, all paid for by his own pockets. But even the most patient lion will roar when you try to set his men on fire. The 11 staff members who are fired didn't just lose his salary, they lost their destiny. In the palace quarters, the silence was replaced by the sound of luggage being dragged across stone floors. It was a heart-wrenching sight. Some of these attendants had grown up inside these walls. They knew the rhythms of the palace better than their own family homes. They had raised children, paid for weddings, and built their entire lives on the prestige of the Golden King. Now, they were standing outside looking in, and the gates felt 1,000 miles wide. What made the situation even more intense was the invisible web the king's investigation uncovered. It wasn't just that they were related to the fallen elders, it was what they did with that connection. Some had been leaking the king's private conversations. Others had been allowing unauthorized messages to pass through to the Golden Crown elders. They thought that because they were small staff, the king would never notice them. They forgot that in the land of the Golden Crown, even the walls have ears, and the king's eyes see what is hidden in the dark. The drama reached a peak when some influential people tried to intervene. They sent emissaries to the wives, hoping they could soften the king's heart. They even reached out to the spiritual elders, begging for a divine intervention, but the word from the inner chambers was stone cold. The rot is deep, and the knife must be sharp. Nobody wanted to get their hands stained by defending people linked to a conspiracy against the throne. Even the wives stepped back, realizing that this was a battle for the very survival of the crown. The suspense moved from the palace to the streets. People were watching the fired staff carry their bundles out of the gates. It was a public disgrace. In our culture, when you are chased out of the palace, it is assumed you have committed a spiritual taboo. The market women who used to give them extra meters of respect now turned their heads away. The neighbors who used to beg them for favors now shut their doors as they passed. Inside, the remaining staff were terrified. Every favor they had ever accepted, every secret meeting they had ever attended was being replayed in their minds. They understood a hard lesson that day. Proximity to greatness is a massive responsibility. If you stand close to the sun, you must be careful not to get burnt. The Golden King wasn't just firing people. He was sending a message to the entire kingdom. The era of using palace access to protect traitors is over. The blood, marriage, loyalty shield had been shattered into 1,000,000 pieces.
The sun began to set over the land of the Golden Crown, but there was no rest for those who had been cast out. The 11 fired staff members stood at the altar perimeter, their boxes and bundles piled high, looking back at the palace that had been their world. It was a scene of raw emotion. Brothers were shouting at the heavens, and fathers were sitting on the ground, staring at nothing. The realization had finally hit home. They were no longer palace people. The Golden King did not come out to watch. He did not need to. The authority of his word was enough. But those who remained inside the palace learned the most painful lesson of all. They saw that while the Golden King is a man of massive heart, a man who would pay for your child's surgery in India or send your son to school in the UK, he is also the custodian of a secret throne. To play with the king's trust is to play with fire. You cannot enjoy the benefits of the palace while helping those who want to set it ablaze. The streets of the land of the Golden Crown are now filled with whispers. People are saying that this is just the beginning. The invisible ink is still writing, and more names might still be called. For the fired 11, the road ahead is dark. Their children's school fees, their hospital bills, their social standing, everything has vanished in a single morning. As they moved away from the gates, the footsteps of the palace guards echoed louder than ever, a reminder that the king is now awake and the wrath has been cleared. The conspiracy that tried to use the staff as a bridge to attack the Golden King has failed. The web of protection has been torn down. Today, the palace is breathing a different kind of air. It is the air of a house that has been swept clean. Whether these families will ever find mercy or if their names are permanently erased from royal history, only time will tell. But for now, the Golden King has shown that he is not just a kind provider, he is a lion who knows how to protect his pride. Now, a very important note for my Crown Gaze friends and families. Please remember that everything we have discussed here today, the firing of the staff, the links to the fallen elders, and the chaos at the gates, is based on alleged information and rumors making the rounds on social media. These are currently unverified reports and should not be taken as solid facts or the absolute truth yet. We are bringing you the gist as it flows in the digital space. So keep your ears open, but your heart wise. What do you think about the Golden King's decision? Was it too harsh to fire them just because of their relatives, or was it the only way to save the palace from traitors? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it.